University should give us some level of protection.
I guess that depends on what we need protection from.
You afraid you're gonna run into a Titan? Where's your sense of adventure?
Beware, spoiler phobes! You have stumbled into a storm of spoilers, a podcast that is as Titan obsessed as the characters of Monarch and Apex. This podcast is split into 3 sections. In the first section, we call The Calm. Neil and I will cover the 3rd episode of the 2nd season of Monarch Legacy of Monsters, titled Secrets, where our love triangles spin out to the point of maybe John Goodman was a bad dad in Kong Skull Island. Then, in a tiny storm section, Neil and I will speculate about what comes next, although we're just a little more informed than the in-universe public about this new Titan threat. Finally, our Godzilla Project game continues with Neil locking in his screenplay, VFX company, and key stars for his Viking Monsterverse prequel, Godzilla Awakening, and attempting to be the 2nd Godzilla movie of 2019. We're not ruining, we're enriching. Well, hello again. I am Dave Gonzalez.
And I'm Neil Miller, and welcome back to a storm of spoilers. Before we get started, a brief amount of housekeeping this week. Next up for us, of course, next week we'll be back for another episode of Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2, which I've been very affectionately calling the Godzilla Show. I don't know if I can keep calling it the Godzilla Show if Godzilla doesn't show up. But
Godzilla's technically in a shot this episode.
He still exists, but we're going to need some more Godzilla. Hopefully that happens next week, where we will be back in your feeds on Saturday after the Apple TV premiere of episode 4 on Friday. How can you get in touch with this show? You can send us a raven. No one did that this week, which is making me a little sad. Over at stormofspoilers@gmail.com. This can include questions, corrections, theories. You can even get ahead of the game and send us questions for House of the Dragon Season 3, which we'll be doing after this. Really, anything you want to say, that would be lovely. It would be great to hear from you at this point. Our email inbox is feeling a little empty these days. You can also review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Leave us a 5-star rating. Say whatever you want. We did get a wonderful review on Apple Podcasts. Not that many Spotify comments, although I would like to shout out the one person who probably will never hear this because they are going through our Lost rewatch. But there is one person who is just having a really fun one-way conversation with our Lost Rewatch podcast, episode by episode, and is currently wherever we had Griffin Newman on the podcast has spent several weeks now yelling at Griffin Newman in our comment section. I think that's very funny. It's entertaining me at the very least.
Yeah, so. I gotta let downtown know that someone has beef with him in our comment section.
Exactly. But more timely and more relevant to what we're doing now is this Apple Podcasts review from Urban Idealists, who says, I see Kylie G wrote the exact words I came here to say. That was last week's review, of course. Looking forward to hearing your voices and perspectives back in my pod's rotation again, especially since we just discovered Monarch last week. Lovely. This is great. Glad to have you on board for this very fun show full of monsters. If you would like to watch this podcast, you can watch us over at youtube.com/@a-storm-of-spoilers. And make sure you're subscribed there. We also would like to credit to Evolved Godzilla by Pumpkin, used under the Creative Commons attribution, which is the fantastic Godzilla artwork that Dave used instead of trying to model the Godzilla himself. I think it's pretty awesome, and I'm very much enjoying the YouTube version. I watch it every week, and this is big because I don't like watching myself in general.
Yeah, I also don't like watching myself. I do check in on it, obviously, but maybe I will release to our patrons at some point my one attempt of like, what if I could do my own 2D Godzilla for this art? And I have an okay Godzilla. It's not the Monsterverse Godzilla. So thanks to Pumpkin.
Well, speaking of our patrons, if you would like to become one of those patrons, join us over at patreon.com/Dave and Neil, Da7e and Neil, for more stuff, more television shows, that we talk about. We talk about movies every week. We have a wonderful Slack that has a great community of people. This week we talked about Alfonso Cuarón's Gravity, one of my all-time favorite movies. And we're talking about space movies, of course, this month. And if you join at the highest level, you get access to our various rewatch projects. We've now completed Twin Peaks, The Leftovers, and Hannibal week-to-week rewatch projects. And in April, we will be starting our 4th project, our first ever non-English language project. We will be watching Netflix's Dark for 26 weeks. And Dave and I will be both experiencing it for the first time and going down a murder mystery time travel rabbit hole with some Germans. And I'm very excited to check it out.
Do we invest an errant, small number of dollars to see what our podcast sounds like in auto-translate German for one episode of Dark?
I mean, we might have to, just for the fun of it. So yes, please join us at the small. That's at the small council level, the highest level of our Patreon. You'll get the Dark podcasts, and anybody who is subscribed at any level will have access to the Slack where we will be doing weekly live watches of Dark, which is available on Netflix everywhere. Very exciting. And of course, you get the backlog of all of our other watch projects. So highly recommend joining us on Patreon, mostly because it helps me pay my bills. So there we go. That is the housekeeping. It is time to talk about the Godzilla-ish show.
Yes, welcome back. This week we are talking about Monarch Legacy of Monsters, Season 2, Episode 3, Secrets. Which
everybody has them.
Everybody has some secrets, and the timey-wimey nonsense continues as this season seems to be centered, at least this early part, around Keiko existing in 2 times simultaneously. Let's talk about it. Over the sounds of the ending of last week's episode, we rejoin young Shaw and Keiko in the 1957 timeline, witnessing Titan X reclaim her scarabs from the fishing village that worships her. Notably, it seems like the pink angry, or frustrated at least, were agitated. Titan X turns blue when she gets her scarabs back. Neil, this is our best look at a Titan this episode.
Sure.
I think it looks pretty good. Do you have any observations about old Titan X?
I mean, several. I do like the video game color coding of like when Titan X goes into calm mode, she turns blue. And also, listen, as I will continue to point out that Godzilla has barely shown up in this show in season 2 so far. However, Titan X looks great especially in this opening sequence. So, we're getting our money's worth as far as seeing large Muto on our screens. It's just not necessarily the main event quite yet. And I would suspect that that's going to be a trend that will continue for much of this season. Like I have this rough theory that we are headed towards a Titan X Kong fight mid-season. That maybe doesn't go super well for Kong, and then a Titan X Kong Godzilla love triangle fight, which is thematically on point for this show to close the season, and that'll be how we finish up the Titan X storyline and free Godzilla of the bonds of this storyline, so that Godzilla can go do other stuff that the movies need Godzilla to do here fairly shortly that also seem to be set up by this episode, but we'll get to that.
Yes, there is some setup in this episode for King of the Monsters, but nobody's seen Godzilla in 3 years, and I think by the time King of the Monsters start, they're like, nobody's seen Godzilla in 5 years, and that's in terms of the public. This episode does make the distinction between what Monarch and Apex know and what the public knows, but at least the public doesn't get to see Godzilla in the time period of this series that we know about. But Godzilla definitely was in the trailers for Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2.
Sure.
Seemingly messing some stuff up. So how that could coexist is a mystery that the show still needs to sort out. I was this week once again watching the credit sequence, both because I'm kind of developing an appreciation for the da-na-na-na-na-na theme. especially when they weave it into the score. But I like it as a banger for like the credits, but also all the background stuff in the credits is kind of interesting. I noticed this one we get a inside of Bill Randa's notebook, and there's sort of like a red line that I assume is tracking the Titan X migratory patterns because that's what his character is doing. There's not a lot of legible writing, but that one goes from like a like northern Canada, Alaska X point down to like San Francisco, down to like San Soledad. So I'm wondering when we do get these showdowns, Kong has to be on Skull Island. If Kong's off Skull Island, then that causes a lot of retcon stuff for the future of the Monsterverse. In theory, Godzilla could pop up. So if we're going to deal with a Godzilla that pops up and is sort of like hidden from the public, in theory, it could pop up in a lot of places.
Sure.
Do we think we're returning to a portal site from season 1? Is this more about Titan X portal hopping than it is like? I guess that's a big question. Let me ask you: is Godzilla going to face down Titan X at one of these portals that he's already been to?
I would think that it has to be either a portal or a location that is sort of outside of any of the locations the movies used, right? So if it's if it's like a northern Arctic, that sort of northern Arctic location that we were at in season 1, I think the San Soledad, going back to San Soledad, would be a probably a reasonable thing, because like we can't have another fight in San Francisco. Because I just watched Godzilla King of the Monsters like last week, and Coach Taylor is in San Francisco, and they don't mention that there was another Muto showdown there since G-Day. So I think that, you know, that would break apart some canon stuff, especially because it does seem like the show wants to weave its way into and protect the canon of the movies. So I don't think so. Or, you know, I guess, you know, somewhere in Asia, I feel like it's going to be weird if they do like a whole, like, you know, the monsters fight in Tokyo sort of thing, because then we're going to have this long running question of like, oh, why didn't anybody mention that in the movies that Tokyo got destroyed by Godzilla and Titan X, you know, a couple of years ago. So I feel like San Soledad's probably the most likely one, or that Arctic location that we were at in season 1. So it can kind of be kept away, can be kept far enough away from the rest of society where Monarch could reasonably keep it under wraps.
I am very interested in the sudden inclusion of Tokyo here, and we will talk about the one plot line that seems to escape the Pacific Rim, in terms of all these locations being mostly around the Pacific Ocean, except for one person by the end of the episode. We'll get there. Back in 1957, Keiko snaps a picture of the blue form Titan X retreating, which pisses off the locals, who are sad to see their god did not kill the interlopers. Despite Lucia trying to de-escalate the situation, one guy pulls a knife on Keiko and slashes her arm when she won't give up the camera. So Lee takes the knife and the two run out of the town to the nearby forest. This is where we get to the inclusion of Tokyo part of our story, because back in 2017, Outpost 18, the boat, has made it to the port of Tokyo for repairs. I don't know how. Last I remember, we had no engines in the middle of the Pacific.
Yeah, they sort of burned out their engines. Maybe a towboat came and got them at a certain point.
A super fast towboat.
Sure.
Kate has decided to leave after taking a shower. Kate has decided to leave because she's feeling guilty about releasing Titan X, but also wants to go visit her mother, which is a good idea, actually, because she's been gone for over 2 years. May, likely attracted to Kate for plot reasons, tells Kate she should stay. Kate does not listen, as she has partying to do. Keiko, her son Hiroshi, his son Kentaro, Monarch Tim, and Old Shaw discuss the next steps, and it turns out Hiroshi has a prototype of our old season 1 friend, the Titan Lure, in his lab in Shibuya. The new plan is to grab the Titan Lure and move Titan X away from mass populations, which seems like a good idea, but Old Shaw keeps side-eyeing Keiko about something that I assume in 1957 knowledge they have that they aren't ready to share yet. Neil, this is why Portals is just a guess. I have a feeling that there's a ace in the hole here where Keiko and Shaw learn something about the Titan X cycle or trapped it in the Axis Mundi or whatnot. And so they know sort of where it's going, but at least for now are going to allow this plan to spare human life.
Sure.
Despite foreknowledge. It's not frustrating me yet. It will frustrate me when
I
they
was going
finally
to say your
it.
favorite thing, characters withholding information for plot reasons.
And I like I get Shaw because Shaw is an old man who's been betrayed by everybody at this point.
Sure.
I get, Kentaro and Hiroshi not trusting Monarch Tim. That makes complete sense to me. But the fact that Keiko is not, like, why are we not information sharing is very mysterious to me. Maybe it has something to do with guilt, but we don't know yet.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it could also be explained away by, she's overwhelmed from the being a time traveler at this point, right? We do get some shots of her as they're walking through Tokyo being sort of like a little freaked out by the new world or the sort of pace and noise and clutter of the modern world. So I think that could be something that is distracting her. But we've also spent an entire season and a couple of episodes establishing that like Keiko is the most competent character on this show in both timelines at this point. Yeah. So she's not going to be able to get away with that for long.
I'm interested to see where it goes, mostly because although this show does make, I think, some weird and occasionally could seem on its face stupid character decisions, it does hold to that. Like every stupid decision it made, we are still dealing with Hiroshi in season 2. So it's not like people are getting away with their bad behavior. So I'm going to hold my judgment until I know what this secret is. I'm going to be really mad if it's like, we know we could have lured it this entire time.
Yeah. Well, I would say maybe one of the things that's a little frustrating about this episode, and it goes to this discussion that we're having, is that it does feel like we're treading a little bit of water here. And it does. And I think that it's possible that we're into a portion of the season where we're going to do a little bit of this treading of water so that we can save some money for some big action stuff later. But they got to start unleashing some revelations, I would say, at some point, right? Like I feel like the Keiko finding out about Hiroshi's 2 families was kind of soft, right? Like I feel like she should have had a bigger reaction to that. But it seems to just be mulling over the questions and not necessarily moving toward answers just yet. But it's only episode 3, so I think we're okay.
I think something that is sort of bucking up against some of these storylines for me is I was taught in screenplay school that like the arc of a scene is something changes by the end. Like 2 characters enter, something happens, they leave with a changed perspective on what happens. I think there are a lot of scenes here where that isn't happening. I don't want to harp necessarily on somebody whose character writing isn't good, and I think the performance is just fine for what it is. But Kate, every time someone talks to Kate, she leaves the scene with the exact same perspective she went into, and I'm really hating that that's happening. Keiko and Shaw are kind of in a loop where it seems like they're actively doing things, but there also hasn't been a moment for them, I think, to really touch base by what just happened. Like Shaw spent a significant period of his life trying to get Keiko back. He finally did get Keiko back, and they haven't had time to slow down and really do that because they need to tell the story in the past. The story in the past, I think, is moving along at about the pace that I want it to. There's only like the one scene that we're about to talk about where they're in the forest hiding that I'm just like, I didn't need this. They could have just run out of the village and outrun the villagers, and I would have been fine on that storyline. But I do like that we're starting to get some reversals. I just think if your reversals have to do with us understanding stuff in the past, that ultimately is going to make it awkward for your characters in the future, because I don't think we have their plot line yet. Their plot line for the first 3 episodes is we have to stop Titan X before the world finds out. Halfway through this episode, the world finds out. So I'm like, okay, now what are we doing?
Sure.
And the show doesn't have an answer for that in this episode.
Now we're chasing a MacGuffin.
Yeah. That being said, each one of these episodes has started from exactly where the previous one ended. So there is a possibility that this plays in season 2. Like, it doesn't bother me when I go back and rewatch it because it plays like it's just one long thing. And we just got to the end of the first act. Would be, I guess, a generous take on what we watched.
Sure. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. We still have a lot of episode to talk about. The next scene reveals Apex has taken over Outpost 18 on an indefinite temporary basis. Love those. Not only are they replacing the sensor systems, but they control the boat. Monarch Tim hasn't been told by Monarch director Barris.
And very importantly, Cliff Curtis is here.
Yes, I was going to say.
Love to see him. We love Cliff Curtis. Fantastic actor.
I wish he had a second scene so I would be assured that he is still going to be there next episode.
Sure.
But if not, he does a great job being a probably villain, but who's also very nice.
Yeah, I mean,
they have authority.
My assumption, and this could be wrong, of course, is that you don't cast Cliff Curtis. Obviously, he's not like going to be a featured player here, but you also don't cast him to be a throwaway 1 or 2 scene character. I feel like Outpost 18 is probably going to be in this story for a while. And he's got some antagonist duties to deliver here in the second season, and I love that for him. I can't wait to see it because, I mean, spoiler alert, we've seen the movies and we know that Apex is up to no good. And I did laugh in this scene that he shows up and very conveniently like gives them a super upgrade to their system.
Yeah,
which is just funny to me because it's just like what a convenient plot thing to be able to be like, oh, well, now we can track them. Now we can track Titan X because we got a super computer now here, and it's so much better, but if it gives us some fun Cliff Curtis time, I'm for it. I'm okay with it.
Yeah. I mean, I do want to see what they're setting up. They did spend a lot of money on that Outpost 18 headquarters main room set. So I do think we'll be spending a lot of time. And a mobile outpost is a good thing to have in a story like this.
And I guess it gives Monarch Tim something to do. He was kind of getting boring.
He's going to make up something for himself to do here in just a little bit. We finally get to see Monarch director Barris as he chews out Tim, telling him Old Shaw and Keiko are dangerous and we love Apex technology. And no, it's not a problem. We gave Elon Musk our monster hunting military boat, which primes Tim for some corporate espionage. So he tells Keiko, Hiroshi, Old Shaw, and Kentaro they need to sneak off Outpost 18 on a boat. And the 4 go to Shibuya to get the device. This distance actually possible, just like while we're talking about tracking distances and what happens on this show. This is the beginning. You can take a boat from the port of Tokyo to somewhere closer to Shibuya. Shibuya is a neighborhood in Tokyo. That makes complete sense to me. Mm-hmm. But start the clock because I think Keiko, Hiroshi, Old Shaw, and Kentaro are on one timeline that we jump out of midway through this episode without talking about it.
Yeah.
Monarch puts out an alert for Shaw and Keiko, and as the two are wandering through the city. Keiko is taking in the changes over a decade makes. It's shot well, and I think this is like where they spent a lot of good money because even though the one shot of them on the screen, the big wanted screens, is obviously something like a Photoshop post-viz together, the rest looks good. I don't think they shot in Shibuya Square. Like I don't remember like Apple shutting it down. So I think that is
it's hard enough.
Some good posts.
It's hard enough to tell that if it's fake, it's really good. But if it's on, it kind of looks like it could have shot it on location. So also, that iPhone money being put to good use, I guess. Either way,
I think all the Shibuya sets are like, the Shibuya sets and the Shibuya establishing shots I think are really good. It'll be interesting to see how much of that is real, but either way, looking good. Mm-hmm. The 4 make it to Hiroshi's old lab and they see the prototype is still there. It just needs to be tuned to what we're told is the Titans song, which requires rewiring notes from Hiroshi's office. So he tasks Old Shaw and his mom with getting those notes as we flash back to that scene I was talking about. Keiko and young Shaw are on the run from the villagers back in 1957. Keiko's still bleeding, so Shaw comes up with a plan to keep the film but ditch the camera and buy them some time to avoid their pursuers. Classic TV trope of the woman makes a twig snap. How dare she be so stupid to put her foot in foliage?
Sure. And people like 20 feet away hear it. Just crazy.
And I don't think we necessarily need this scene, but I'm glad that, Lucia gets some more lines. So she gets her.
It's really just there to continue to build up the romantic tension that we know has been there for like 2 episodes. Like it's obvious where we're headed. We called it last week on the podcast. Like these two are going to make out at some point.
But we had to hide in a ditch for a little bit. In 2017, May is getting drunk and having noodles when she's approached by Monarch Tim, who suggests she takes a job at Apex that Brenda Holland offered her a week ago and become Monarch's mole inside Apex. Luckily, May still has the code that Apex sorely wants, so she's in a good position. Tim didn't know about the code, so I'm happy you picked the right operative, I guess. This is where I think we start breaking off from time. Because we're going to follow May to take the Apex job while also cutting back to our foursome in Shibuya trying to do these, various fetch operations for the prototype. And then it's not till the very end of the episode that I become very confused about the timeline, because it could be May starts we go further in time with May, but they're going to intersect right at the end. We'll get there.
I also think timeline stuff aside, this may be the beginning of May's unintentional villain arc. Because I guess because we see her take the job with Apex, don't we have to assume that she gives them the code?
That's what it seems like.
Which, I feel like we know where that code is going to be eventually used. And it involves the flattening of Hong Kong, by a Mecha Godzilla. So I think that, May and Kate are going to have some similar guilt here rather than later.
I would love for that guilt to be something that they could talk about. I am worried that we spent so much time with May keeping the code out of Apex's hands, but also knowing that she had to fail. And so they were just like, she goes back.
Yeah.
To be a mole, though. She goes back to be a mole.
Right. And gives them the
not
code.
A great, yeah. Again, not a great sign, but I am waiting for the show to tell me this rather than making me assume it. But if they make me assume it, it sucks. Kate makes it home, and we have my second pick for well-spent iPhone money as we get a shot of still devastated San Francisco, which is not doing well after G-Day and the Mudo fight, with some trees and stuff growing up still ruined buildings. I was surprised they didn't try to fully restore San Francisco immediately.
Yeah, I mean, it still looks good. I mean, I guess in the movies, in King of the Monsters, it's still pretty messed up. So they never really were in a hurry to rebuild San Francisco. I guess maybe they assumed Godzilla would just come back and smash it again.
I mean, everybody does seem very afraid of Godzilla, so that does track.
That would be
happened to you once.
If you lived in this world, if you were let's say a lawmaker in this world, a senator from California or the California governor, and one of your cities got smashed, and then Godzilla was not killed, and you knew he was still out there, I don't know if I would be in a hurry to rebuild all those skyscrapers either, right? Like maybe we build some 3-story tall low income housing instead.
I mean, I moved to New York in 2003, and there was still a hole in the city, but there was a hole in the city in the World Trade Center because they down.
Sure.
San Francisco is leave the buildings up, let them go back to nature.
But also that was, no disrespect to New York or the World Trade Center, but that was 2 buildings. Godzilla knocked down a whole shitload more than 2 buildings.
Back on the show, Monarch's prop department photoshops together some more family photos between actors as we catch up with Kate's mom and her boyfriend. She says, I'm sure Kate will tell us about her adventures in her own time, which made me giggle, as now Kate is out of sync with time. But also, what an episode for the people whose job it is on the prop department to Photoshop family photos with people. Just season 2, episode 3, these people are really shining. Not a ton of bad photoshops in these various family photos. People with a bunch of different ethnicities. I like it.
Sure. Also, what an episode for moms being super chill with their messy children.
Yes.
Kate's mom, I mean, she's obviously, I guess, has a very big emotional moment when she sees Kate for the first time, but also seems to be doing pretty well. all things
Yeah, she's
considered.
like, come on in, have some wine, have some kebabs. You know what? You take your time.
Sure.
This happened to you.
Whenever you're ready.
Somehow everyone's feeling sorry for Kate, the hero of multiple worlds, and is very concerned about her doing whatever she needs to do or hanging out with her old teachers, which is very nice. But if I didn't see my parents for 2 years, this entire interaction would be about the next time we're seeing each other, not this. At least Anna Saiway gets to click in here a little bit, even if she's playing the character a little young to me, like, Mom, let me go out with my friends. You'll never understand the Axis Mundi.
Mm-hmm.
In Shibuya, Old Shaw, Keiko, searching for wiring diagrams in Hiroshi's office, find more Photoshop photos that show her son with 2 different families. Assuming he was a widower, Keiko tries to get information out of Old Shaw, who rightfully says it's not his story to tell, because his story to tell is in 1957. We're
also,
doing it.
Again, I kind of assumed that Keiko would have a slightly different reaction to this. She's very, very chill about this Hiroshi situation. But, maybe it's because she can relate to a certain extent.
Right. We go back to 1957, where young Lee and Keiko find an abandoned cabin to hide at while Lee cleans Keiko's wounds, and she falls asleep. We don't stay there all the way through because we're cutting back. Again, I don't think we need the Lost in the Forest part of the scene. So back to 2017, Kate is trying to meet up with her old teacher friends for jalapeno poppers and skinny margs, but decides against it and is headed to a club. Here is where things get weird for Dave. Back at Pensacola, Florida, on the Atlantic side of this entire story for some reason. Who knows how much time later, since May is there, not in Japan anymore. May takes the job at Apex in Randa, Holland, and is quickly brought into the Apex fold on the basis of her super code, which, as you point out, she must have given to them because she's at work immediately.
Sure. Well, and this raised a bunch of flags for me because this all feels very quick.
Yes.
Because the Pensacola thing specifically, because I also just recently rewatched Godzilla vs. Kong. And the Pensacola thing kind of skips past all of Godzilla King of the Monsters because Pensacola Apex station or headquarters is where Brian Tyree Henry is sneaking in as a janitor before launching his conspiracy theory podcast, and where eventually this Titan lure, which looks very familiar, will lure Godzilla to destroy this facility and kick off that whole movie. So I'm curious about a number of things. Like, is the code that May gave them part of what's leading to the plot of that film? How long is she going to be there? The Titan lure is obviously going to be there. We'll kind of get to that. And how does this show deal with the fact that they now want their characters to go after the Titan lure if it is going to be in a place where we know it's going to remain, or at least return to in several years? Like, we know it's there in 2020, 2021. So,
I'm gonna have to put a pin in this, Neil, and save it for the storm.
Yeah,
but
I got so many questions.
Very questionable.
Why are we in Pensacola this soon on the general timeline?
In Japan, we are still on the same mission with Kentaro and Hiroshi, who started this mission while May was still eating noodles, who talk about how Kate feels bad for releasing Titan X into the world, and Hiroshi say they all make mistakes. They don't need to bear the consequences alone, which is a hell of a thing to say from Mr. Two Families. They meet up with Old Shaw and Keiko, then split up again. So Old Shaw is with Kentaro, and Keiko gets to talk to her son, which is where she carefully brings up the whole "why do you have 2 families" thing. Kentaro tries to tell her about the 2 families and that it is complicated and that Keiko wouldn't understand. But we push in on Keiko because she does understand. Because back in 1957, talk of the wine dance last episode and cleaning of a tough guy, young Lee Shaw's wound, leads to sexy times between Keiko and Shaw. These were the ones I was warned about on my episode warning at the beginning of the episode. They did it.
Sure.
I think we've been spoiled by Hannibal, Neil. I was like, oh, okay. This is just supposed to be, and then they had sex, not necessarily, this is a sexy scene.
Sure.
Did I misread that?
Sure. Well, I would say I've watched a lot of Apple shows. And, we are scholars for sure of the HBO brand of when people do sexy times. In fact, I've recently been doing a little impromptu Game of Thrones rewatch, and remembering how raunchy the first couple seasons of Game of Thrones really were.
Yes.
The Apple shows are very, very sanitized. There is not very much sex in any of these shows, as far as I can tell, unless there's some really raunchy Apple TV Plus shows that I just have not watched yet. This feels very much like what I would expect from this particular streaming service, despite the fact that being a streaming service, it can operate under like paid cable rules. So it doesn't have to be, a PG-13 situation. It can live in a TVMA space, but I also think that this show is trying to straddle a line where it wants to be sort of a 4-quadrant-ish show, right? Where it kind of wants to be accessible to a younger audience, and the younger audiences these days don't need the Steam as much as maybe our generation enjoyed the Steam.
Yeah. I mean, I am interested. Actually, I don't want to get there yet because we haven't dealt with the rest of the episode, which has the letter, which is actually more interesting. In 2017, Kate has gone to a club where she finds an ex-girlfriend, not Danny from the first season. This is a new blonde one we haven't seen before.
Is this not? I didn't check to see if it's the same actor, but is this not the person that she was cheating on Danny with? Remember, we saw two in the first season.
Yeah, that's a good point. This might be the same one. I should go back and check the names.
Yeah, I'll keep talking. I'll see if I can figure it out.
That also lines up more thematically with the episode, so I'm going to give it to you for that poll, but I will keep going. We have a shots and dancing montage in a club obsessed with Titan X's pink and blue color scheme. I wonder if Titan X and Kate are connected somehow. Oh well, Kate kisses her ex on the dance floor. Back in Florida, May is already at work at Apex, and Tim is already texting her, asking if she found anything yet. On our screen, this is why we have a podcast, Neil. On our screen, we see files for James Conrad London. This is Tom Hiddleston's character from Kong Skull Island. Red Monarch USSR from 1984, which I assume has to be our first look at the proposed Shaw Cold War spinoff series, because Shaw comes out of the Axis Mundi in 83. I have never heard of Red Monarch before. This sounds like obviously a USSR Monarch.
Sure.
So my guess is this is the first Cold War spinoff series egg planting that we're going to be doing something here.
Right. And do we know of any monsters that are necessarily native to Russia?
No, I don't know. I'm not really good at the semi-canonical Titans, like if they haven't been in a movie, but I don't think there's one from Russia off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So that's a big world of Titans to open, geographically at least. We have Titanus Masura in New York. This is, of course, the Mothra site that we see in King of the Monsters. We see Abe Brooks, which is really interesting. This is the first live-action MonsterVerse reference to the Skull Island Birth of Kong comic book series that stars a character named Brooks. He's a soldier. And then we have Outpost 32 Antarctica, and that's where they have Ghidorah frozen on ice, which we will also deal with in King of the Monsters. The interesting thing about this, Neil, is I would have said these are all files Monarch would have. And if we're going to deal with them on a show called Monarch Legacy of Monsters, I assume Monarch would know about this. But it appears that Apex actually knows more of what's going on in the Monsterverse at this moment. So maybe Apex and this series' ability to go inside Apex is actually going to be how we're going to deal with the apparent conflict that Monarch doesn't know any of these things, or the public doesn't know any of these things, because the government organization is going to kind of be dumb, while this secret spy organization is going to actually be the one dropping our expanded universe Easter eggs, which is fine with me, I guess.
Sure. All right. Before we get too far, I want to come back to this Russia situation.
Yes.
Because there is in the Monsterverse one monster that comes from Russia. In Godzilla King of the Monsters, Amhaluk, which is a giant tree monster.
Oh, okay.
is one of the monsters that is awakened by the King Ghidorah's call, right? When King Ghidorah awakens a bunch of randoms. It comes from a big rock formation in Russia. So I wonder if that will play into the Monarch. Because I mean, how many times can we just do Godzilla?
I mean, I think if you're doing Red Monarch, I think that's just a monster of the week. I think you're just doing the Monarch we never heard about because we never had access to those records.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my hope for like spin-offs, not to get too far off on a tangent, but like my hope for spin-offs of this series, if we're going to explore Monarch further, is that we get into like the weirder and weirder monsters that exist in this universe and sort of dig into the minutia of the stuff that we see in Godzilla King of the Monsters, where we get all those monsters that like wake up and then bow to Godzilla and then are never heard from again.
Right.
So like maybe get some lore.
He's kicking some of them back into line at the beginning of New Empire.
Sure.
But otherwise, yes, there's a lot of monsters to see Godzilla kick into line. I think would be very, very fun. But also, Red Monarch would be pre-G-Day, so nobody technically knows about Godzilla, but maybe the Russians could keep it a secret? I don't know.
Well, yeah.
I am interested in...
Lee Shaw does know about Godzilla at that point, because it's
true.
After Bikini Atoll.
I am interested in a Russian Godzilla, because that's actually a perspective that I haven't really considered before.
Sure.
Like, is that kind of story different? I don't know.
Sure. Is it like Red Sun, the Superman?
Exactly. What if Godzilla? A search for the Randa family by May at Apex shows that Apex has been tracking the group ever since they left Outpost 18, which is either a few days or hours ago, and May sees an Apex team break into Hiroshi's backup lab and steal the prototype. May texts Goonies 2, this is a group, "We have a problem." And then we cut to the Shibuya stuff, and they learn that Apex has taken the device because apparently they wanted the world to know about Titan X, which is where my timeline confusion comes in, because it appears May got a job, flew to San Francisco, accepted that job, started that job, was left alone long enough to Google them, all while Old Shaw
and went all the way to Pensacola.
All the way to Pensacola. All while Old Shaw and Keiko were running around looking for schematics.
Right, just the flight time alone would be too much.
It's insane
to break this timeline. Even if she did most of it on the plane on the way to Pensacola.
Right. Apex has taken the device because they want the world to know about Titan X. Smash cut to San Francisco, where the club lights turn red with a Titan alert, the first since G-Day. Kate's old ex freaks out. Kate tries to drunkenly confess that it's all her fault, but just hears that she needs help, and Kate's night is ruined as the club evacuates. Back in 1957, Keiko and Lee agree they can never have sex again. At this exact moment, Bill Randa returns with a rescue boat. After an awkward reunion on the beach, it looks like the team is safe. But we're still feeling sorry for ourselves, because back in 2017, Kate has flashbacks that cause her to break into the still destroyed Golden Gate Park and look at the bridge she almost lost all her kids to during G-Day. She's flashing back to releasing Titan X. She's got full guilt conveyed through editing. We even see that shot of Kong yelling, "What the fuck did you do again?" for the third time.
Yeah, and I would say this is, despite the fact that there are some cool visuals in here of like the destroyed Golden Gate Park and whatnot, this is where the episode really starts to feel like it's treading water, where it's like, why do we need like this montage, which feels like the 8th time that Kate has had to sit and simmer inside of her guilt about this situation. Like, I get it. We get it. She feels bad. She feels like she's the only person responsible for this, even though everybody has rightfully told her that she's not the only one responsible. Because again, multiple people went on that mission to get Shaw back, and no one regrets having Shaw back. Right? Like, no one's mad about the fact that they got Shaw back and that Keiko's there. Like, success overall, except for the whole releasing Titan X thing.
Yeah.
So, like, my only hope here is that we are going to move past this for Kate, because with love and respect to Anna Sawai, she doesn't play drunk messy as well as she does have other gears. So I would like to see Kate get more purpose and have more momentum in this plot and more stuff to actually do than just sit there and be like guilt stricken and sad and a little messy. I mean, she could be messy in other ways, but like this isn't working for me.
Indeed. I would like for Kate to make a decision to change a little bit. Sure, self-destructive party mode is a mode that exists. I just would like her to be doing something else. And hopefully she can. All right, here we go. The big thing of this episode. In 2017, Shibuya Hiroshi is despondent because he lost the prototype. His mom says they could go back to Monarch for help. And Hiroshi is like, you're just like Bill Randa, who left me when I was 11 and never came back, which is new info to us, who saw the John Goodman version of Bill Randa leave a video message for his son in season 1. So it seemed like his son was somewhat on to what was going on.
Sure. And I guess, we assumed that he had a much longer relationship with his son, considering that he's much older in Consco Island. He really does. That was another thing that sort of took me out of the episode as I was doing the math. And I was like, he really goes from Anders Holm to John Goodman in like 10 years. That's a stretch.
He pulls a James McAvoy, Patrick Stewart, Professor X, where it's just like, and within 3 years, you look like Patrick Stewart.
Exactly.
To make it even more confusing, we flash back to 1962, 3 years after Keiko disappeared and the same year that Shaw disappeared in Operation Hourglass. We see young Hiroshi go through Uncle Lee's stuff for a whetstone. Both he and Bill agree they missed the couple before Bill sees a letter on the ground and opens it up. Holy bad dad, Batman. Did Bill run away from a child to go to Skull Island? I guess we'll have to find out next week when hopefully someone in 2017 decides to openly talk about their 1957 past on Monarch Legacy of Monsters. I guess, I'm sorry, I'm skipped over the part where Keiko wrote basically exactly what she said on the beach, we can never have sex again, to Lee, and the writing it down seems to be a problem.
Sure.
Neil,
fairly redundant.
Is there any cheating that actually happens this episode, do you think? Like I don't know how to feel about Bill Randa. I mean, with the bunch of information we got at the end here.
There's two issues that I take with this. One is the way that they're moving back and forth in these timelines. It's actually kind of difficult to understand. Like, I get that at the point where Keiko and Shaw are at the fishing village, like at that point in time, they've already given up their relationship aspirations, but we don't. And like she's with Bill, but like,
and Hiroshi
and Hiroshi, but Hiroshi again, not Bill's son. So like,
correct. They're
maybe not married yet, right? Like she's maybe just still dating Bill.
She never says like my husband. And then so Shaw never says your husband.
We're sort of still in like a transitional period between, for Keiko, in between these two dudes. And so it's a lighter form, I guess, of cheating. Also, if I were Bill and I were part of what has very clearly been a love triangle this entire time, and almost certainly at least a throuple in proximity, if not action, would you really be that surprised?
That's my thing.
To learn that like they hooked up at one point, and also at that point in your life, you are now alone. You've lost both of them. Couldn't you just forgive them and move on and not take it out on an 11-year-old child by leaving them? So like this, I do think you're right. This stands to potentially turn our ire toward Bill Randa as this is a very bad dad move. If this is what gets him to abandon Hiroshi and basically, is sort of a initial trauma that sets off the way Hiroshi ends up in his life, because I feel like maybe there's reason for Bill to be sad about this, a little bit upset, but again, neither Keiko or Lee are around anymore, so it's not worth being that upset about. because there's nobody that you can really yell at, right? So I feel like the show has some explaining to do. And if this really is the reason why he left the kid, then, I'm not going to feel so bad about the fact that he got eaten by a skull crusher monster on Skull Island in 1973.
Because of his stupid camera flash.
Exactly.
I think this feels a little bit like a retcon, and I feel like the only thing that's going to make me feel better is if they kind of like retcon a way out of it. Because we're told in Kong Skull Island, it's like, we got to save Monarch. We got to get to this island. The storm circle only opens every once in a while. What if he goes there because they like in the 1957, they immediately go and trap Titan X in the Axis Mundi? That would be their first acknowledgement that this existed before Keiko goes in and before Shaw goes in. And then she goes in and then Shaw goes in, and then he looks at this letter and he's like, well, I do know where to get them if they are possibly alive.
Yeah. And I do think this is...
But also not telling your kid. There's also a possibility that he told the kid and Hiroshi doesn't remember because Hiroshi was 11. But that just like also adds a lot to a character that I already am really trying hard to like, even though every time he's like, I loved two women. What was I supposed to do? So like...
Yeah, and
very messy characters.
I also think this is early enough in the season, right? Third episode of 10, that this could be something that isn't what it seems, right? Like that the show is leading us down one direction to be like, oh, this is fucked up for Bill, and then is going to turn it on its head. And that would be a clever, if they can pull it off, a clever way to sort of pull us back and forth on this character, right? Like if this for some reason inspired him to go out in search of Keiko and Lee. I guess we don't entirely know how Lee was eventually found, but it wasn't until after Bill was gone, right? Because Hiroshi's there.
Yeah, Lee gets
in like the 80s,
sucked,
right?
82. Lee gets sucked out of the Axis Mundi and meets an adult Hiroshi.
Yeah. So I guess at that point, after learning that in season 1, my assumption would have been that Bill was part of at least leading the initial part of that before he went to Skull Island, right? Like, I got to find my friend and my wife in Axis Mundi. And then, that also could have explained why he was so hell-bent on getting to Skull Island, because obviously Skull Island has a connection. So, but, obviously not mentioned in Kong Skull Island.
Well, that's the strength, I think, of Bill Randa's character in Kong Skull Island, is he lies to get there. They get there and there's a giant ape and he's like, yep, Titans are real. I needed to do this. But he could also have just been lying where it's like, yeah, Titans are real also. There's a portal here. I got to find my wife.
Yeah, exactly.
And we just never told that because Samuel L. Jackson was too mad to ask, and we never got the full story.
He had to have a standoff with a giant ape, which
exactly,
honestly worth it.
visually worth it. There's not a lot to go over in corners this week because, again, not a ton of new Titans. We just get to see Titan X, pink and blue versions, and then Titan X in 2017, where we know that she's on the prowl and the world is aware. She's at least somewhere close enough to San Francisco that San Francisco's on some sort of alert.
Yeah, and again, the thing this show is going to have to deal with is why isn't anyone talking about this in the later parts of the timeline where the movies exist? So Titan X is going to have to go away at some point,
right?
Over the course of this show.
And then body count. I don't think anyone dies. I mean, like, there's not even like a background event where somebody could have died that I can tell.
No, all the villagers seem to live.
All the villagers live. Everybody, obviously, Lee and Keiko get out of San Soledad fine. Everybody seems fine.
All the scarabs find their way to their mother.
Indeed. The only two things that I've added to Timeline Watch are Bill Randa finds Keiko's letter in 1962. That is the same year that Lee Shaw and Operation Hourglass is sucked into the hollow earth and Monarch is defunded. So we do have, some things to do in between here and Kong Skull Island. I'm going to keep a track of Bill finding the letter. That could be all we learn. And then he went to Kong Skull Island. I'm hoping that's not, because he doesn't die on Kong Skull Island until 73.
Yeah.
So we have 11 years somehow that Bill does something. Please tell me show. Otherwise, he is an asshole. Any questions you have before we jump into the storm this week, Neil? Because I do think we have some storm things to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think we'll talk in the storm about the Pensacola paradox. You know, I'm curious to see how this show, because again, I do think this show is giving us a decent level of human drama that is fascinating. Always sort of the bar for some of these movies is, you know, can you, some of these stories, I guess this being a television show, is can you fill in the gaps between monster stuff with interesting human drama? But I am kind of curious as to where the show's going to land on whether like being messy is hereditary or not, because it does seem like it's a Randa fan. Like last week we talked about, you know, is feeling the vibrations of Titan X like a gendered hereditary thing for the Randa women, but also it does seem like somewhere in the Randa family DNA, it's just like you're messy and you will be in love with multiple people, right? Like I feel like we even get a hint with May and Kate here in this episode, and I still think that the show has room to come back to the May maybe dating both siblings type of thing. I mean, Kentaro's kind of been busy with hanging out with his dad and also not really involved so far very much in the plot of this season, but you know, we'll see if that comes back. But then again, as you mentioned, May time warped over the other side of the planet pretty quickly and is no longer near anyone. So I don't know if this show's even interested in that at the moment.
I get where I am willing to give so many starts to that sentence, all of them possibly true. I'm going to give the show some rope on the relationship stuff, because again, there's a world where it could have been like the techno babble and blah, 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 and we move on. But the show does seem interested in exploring these things. I would just like it to up the pace a little bit with everybody talking to each other.
Sure. Especially for Kate, because
especially for Kate,
you know, how many montages about her guilt.
Well, also Kate talked to everybody. So she's like the bad example of what I'm talking about, because she does talk to everybody. She just is like, no, my feelings are the valid ones. Which, I don't know, is dramatically inert. It's dramatically inert. I don't like it. But I do think there's stuff coming up for Kate, some of which we're going to have to talk about in the storm. So let's jump on over and talk about some stuff we might know about the rest of the season. All right, Neil, we're back in the storm. I do want to talk about next week's episode because it has some weird stuff. But did you also see that they released a Making of Titan X short?
Oh, no. I missed that.
I believe I saw it on YouTube. And when I saw it, I was like, interesting, because I watched it. And it's mostly talking about their use of a virtual camera. So they modeled Titan X. They do have a fully 3D printed scarab on set that's fully colored and everything that they were using for reference. So we were correct about that last week. But they, you know, modeled Titan X and Kong and Godzilla as they would be used in this season, and sort of threw them into a virtual camera setup. So while people were on set, they could like pull it up either on a witness camera or on their iPhones, and the actors would get to look and be like, you know, here's what you're looking at, here's what it's going to look like, that sort of thing. And so they showed a whole bunch of pre-renders of Titan X, one of which was in a desert with some of our leads, which fine, we'll see how that I think she's an aquatic monster, but maybe we're going to find something else out. But very specifically, another one was an animatic of Titan X sort of like coming out of the water and looking face to face with a tiny human. And I saw that before I saw this week's episode. So when Kate went to start crying at the Golden Gate Park, I was like, oh, is Titan X going to like rise up and they're going to have like a moment? But I do think that's going to be Kate. And I do think Kate has some sort of actual connection to this monster. They're just doing too many visual teases to not necessarily do that. And both of those characters, if we want to treat Titan X like a full-on character, are sort of in this dramatic stasis where they're doing the same thing over and over again, and we don't kind of know why.
Sure.
So I want to hope that we are just in a boring part of a big plan that's all going to click together, because they did, in these behind-the-scenes shots, show us some big monster stuff that they were using, this virtual production model on that we haven't seen yet. So hopefully there's more action in this series than we were anticipating, just given the trailer. And they didn't show any new Godzilla stuff, so I can't help you there.
Godzilla is taking a break. Godzilla's off somewhere, sipping a Mai Tai, sitting on a beach somewhere, just chilling. And you know what? Godzilla's got a lot that's going to happen in a few years, so a break is fine for now, I guess. And also, like I said, all of the Titan X stuff has looked good. The Kong stuff, other than like some of those first couple of shots, has looked really good. So I feel like I'm confident in the way they are spending the money on what they're using so far. And as long as the story starts to gain momentum over the next couple of episodes, and as long as we keep sort of escalating the monster stuff as the season, as we get deeper into the season, I think that will all be fine. It will be fine that Godzilla doesn't show up until the end. I mean, I am on record many times as being a big fan of the 2014 Godzilla movie, where Godzilla does not show up until like 2/3 of the way through the movie. So it's, I don't need Godzilla on the screen all of the time. It's just kind of funny to keep calling it the Godzilla show. Godzilla's nowhere to be found.
It's like we have spent years knowing Godzilla is the apex king of the monsters, but we're living in a world where they don't even know that concept exists yet, because it has to happen in a movie that hasn't happened in their world yet.
Sure. Yeah.
Speaking of that movie and that series of movies, next week's episode is called Trespass, and the official description is to get Hiroshi's device back. Shaw and the team execute a daring heist at Apex Cybernetics. Neil, what's wrong with that premise?
Deeply confusing. Because, as I mentioned in the column, Brian Tyree Henry, my favorite in-universe conspiracy theory podcaster, who will eventually team up with Millie Bobby Brown and take a hyperloop to Hong Kong and be there to witness the birth of Mechagodzilla, which I guess is going to be powered by not only one King Ghidorah head, but also the code written by May. May's going to be pissed. He is eventually going to infiltrate that as a janitor and be looking for the evidence. And he's going to find that very familiar looking MacGuffin, which is there. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. Either the heist goes wrong and they are not able to steal the lure back, which means that season 2 will have to find a different MacGuffin, or they do steal it and eventually Apex steals it back, which I guess would be fun because that gives, antagonist Cliff Curtis something to do, steal the MacGuffin back. But then that would mean that Apex Cybernetics would take it back and then put it right back in the same place for several years later, when eventually it has to lure Godzilla in. Yeah.
Here's my thing. I don't know why this needs to be a heist, because Apex has the lure now. Apex has control of Outpost 18, the only thing they would use to move the lure. And Apex has the lure in several years in Godzilla versus Kong. Wouldn't Apex just let Apex know the plan? Like, we get that Apex is like, we don't trust them because they're a huge tech company, but they do seem to have the, technology to track Titan X, and they did go and steal the lure, which, to be fair, was also what Hiroshi was going to go do, is go get the lure. They aren't far enough apart from each other in terms of goals for me to be like, why are we doing a heist at all? Why are these antagonistic forces?
Well, and the only seeds that they've planted is by sort of just taking our core group of characters and sort of distancing them from Monarch, right? So now we have
Right.
Monarch Tim has a reason to not trust the entire organization anymore. Shaw and Keiko, obviously, because they want to like imprison them, are going to be outside of the loop. And, May is their mole and Kate is partying in San Francisco. So, it really sort of leaves Hiroshi and Kentaro, who I guess are just on Team Rebels at this point. And I guess I don't, because eventually the split between Monarch and Apex doesn't really, like, their relationship as organizations doesn't really take place until the Mechagodzilla incident.
Right.
So like Monarch and Apex are going to be friends for a while here. So yeah, I mean, or they're at least going to be working together toward mutual interests. So I don't, this show's going to have to walk a very interesting path to keep us, keep some dramatic tension here. And, I guess not stray too much from what's eventually going to happen. Like I said, I was very surprised that we're already going to Pensacola, because like I could see a chasing this lure around other places sort of deal. And then eventually it ends up in Pensacola, but like it's already there. So isn't that just where it's going to be?
Yeah. I'm glad that Shaw and the team are doing something, but I don't think it needs to be a heist, and I'll be interested to see if that's actually what this episode is about.
Like, it's going to be weird, but I wouldn't be surprised if like the heist fails and they all get arrested and then something else has to happen for the rest of the season. Like the plot has to go in a completely different direction, because that would at least maintain the future canon that we know.
Yep. And can't wait to see what happens as we get to Trespass.
Maybe mom and son need to build a new Titan lure, home-brewed Titan lure that they can lure out Titan X.
Took them 6 years before, but you know what? It takes several hours to fly from Japan to Florida, so who knows what's possible.
Listen, just like they solved problems in season 1, I'm sure Uncle Lee's got a friend who can get him some parts somewhere.
Yeah. Somebody from Red Monarch is going to come in and help him out.
There you go. Let's plant some spin-off seeds.
Yeah, can't wait. All right, I think that's all we need to talk about as we head into next week's episode, Trespass. It is season 2, episode 4. Not quite halfway, but we are on our way, and we are thruppling out over here on Monarch Legacy of Monsters. So please join us as we transition out of reality and into our Godzilla project.
This alpha predator of yours, Doctor. Do you really think he has a chance?
The arrogance of man is thinking nature is in our control, and not the other way around. Let them fight.
All right, we're back in the Godzilla game. Just a reminder, Neil is rolling dice in order to make decisions to make a Godzilla movie. Neil, what would you like to remind our listeners about last week's installment in the Godzilla project?
Well, it's important to note that this project will have plenty of Godzilla. It's important. I mean, then again, as I described it last week, Godzilla does kind of show up halfway through. So, but that can work. This is a period piece, throwback to the 900s, and it is basically Godzilla versus Vikings and a dragon of sorts, and it's potentially a time-traveling Godzilla. It's a project that I'm going to be directing myself because I need to save some money on a director and, hopefully get some points on the back end. And I was very proud to have passed the background check of the 2017 era and have had no associations with Harvey Weinstein. So I think that is going to give us a pretty good clean slate when it comes to signing on other people to work on this project. We need to gather some great talent and attract some creative folks who can help bring my vision to life.
Excellent. So what we're going to be doing this week on the show is you are going to be having 3 encounters. We're going to be doing a screenplay, we're going to be doing a VFX studio, and we're going to be doing what we call key casting. Your roles this week and your gameplay is going to determine next week's final pre-production and full casting. So next week I will come to you with some details of the results of your screenplay that we roll for this week. And of course, some updates. This week, you're going to roll for a VFX studio to start doing things like previs off your script.
Sure.
And then, of course, key casting is just in case you want to really get somebody above the line or below the line, but you want to make sure that they are involved as the story is being developed. Maybe it helps you get an actor.
Right.
You already said you're directing yourself. So maybe it helps you get a VFX department or somebody that you really, really want by letting them into the process early. So I could be argued, at least here when we start, that key casting could come before rolling for the screenplay. So I'm going to let you decide where we begin this week's game. Would you like to start with the screenplay, or would you like to lock somebody in that maybe can give some influence on the screenplay?
Well, listen, I have a direction that I want to go, especially with like my 2 main leads. And I would be open to, if I can get the right people, if I can get my first choices, having them involved in the minutia of the screenplay, because I think that they are talented enough that they could not only serve in that role, but also be attractive to other parties, right?
Okay.
You know, the casting could be that good. I mean, again, like I said last week, we're not going for like the Tom Cruises of the world here, but I do have some very strong casting ideas, and I think if we put together this core set of leads that I want, we could really be in good shape.
All right, then I am going to take the position of your line producer. So I am here to help you with the cost, to line things up, to interface with the agents. We are here. You are greenlit at $50 million. Who do I need to reach out for you to get these people locked in before we start dealing with the actual story?
Sure. Well, there are 2 targets that I want to go for.
Okay.
For our warrior lead, our warrior queen of the Vikings, more of a princess because she's a younger character. We are looking at Anya Taylor-Joy, who, you know, has not broken out as a huge star yet, but I think this could be a star-making blockbuster for her. And I think that is a huge opportunity for her. So stress to her agent that this is, you know, starring on screen with Godzilla is something that could escalate someone's career. You know, and hopefully we're going to get a little bit of prestige attention with this movie because we're taking it in a very different direction. So, you know, maybe there's, you know, we'll at least be there on Oscar night with visual effects, I think.
All right.
So, you know, she'll at least get to walk the red carpet. If not, you know, maybe give a performance worthy of some buzz. You know, I would love to be able to take this otherwise silly big blockbuster genre picture and break it into the award season. So Anya Taylor-Joy for our warrior lead, our fierce princess of Vikings. And in the role of her father, a grizzled but devastatingly handsome Mads Mikkelsen. And I feel like this is a key role because, one, Mads is very hot right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's, you know, obviously has just come off of doing Hannibal. He's a fan favorite. And I think he's a great actor. He's done a number of period pieces like this. I also like this role for him because, you know, we don't have a full screenplay yet, but we have some story beats. and this is a character whose death comes early-ish in the movie, maybe early Act 2, and would be one of those shocking but very impactful deaths where we have a very familiar face who is makes a huge impact in Act 1 and then exits the film very quickly. And people, it reverberates through the rest of the movie and inspires some of the other characters. Some of the rest of I would say we fill out the rest of the cast with sort of some young, interesting talent that will, carry the banner.
I love it. I will make those calls for you and we will reach out and we will see what happens. But what great distinctions. Some time passes, your phone rings, it's me, your line producer. I'm like, heard back from the Mickelson camp.
Oh, all right.
And he likes the idea. He does sort of feel like he's done this with Galen Erso last year.
Sure.
And that he's kind of re-rolling this plot, which he's fine with. But because of that, he is going to want $2 million for this role in your film.
Okay. I mean, listen, we're not, we're not looking to spend huge money on any one particular person. I don't think that's unreasonable for Mads.
All right.
As he will be he'll be on the poster. So
yeah. Do you want to take him at his 2 and
I mean,
just have Mads Mikkelsen aboard?
Can we negotiate something a little lighter, but that gets creative with some points, or that gets
name above on the poster he would like.
Sure.
Rogue One did not do that, so maybe I could try to knock $500,000 off for poster above the line.
I mean, he would be very much above the line, name on the poster, featured in the trailers. I mean, again, this would be a situation where I don't want to bait and switch the audience too much, but we make the audience believe that he's going to be a key player.
Okay.
And then we rip him away. Very George R.R. Martin like. Not
all right, Neil.
Not quite as obviously doomed as Galen Erso.
Right. I believe you. You said the right thing. That is a good thing. However, this is going to depend on your reputation, which is your D8 skill. In order to get $500,000 off, I'm going to need you to have a 6 on this D8 skill.
Okay.
As a reminder, you do have 1 lost token from last week. So if I get a 7, you could, or if I get a 5, you could automatically add it and make it a 6. Lose that lost token, but succeed on this. If you roll below a 6, you get another lost token. Doesn't work. If you roll an 8, it blows up. You get to roll again. The higher the number, the bigger the success is.
Okay. And if I were to fail this roll, I could still take him at 2 million.
If you could fail this roll, I think you could take him at 2 million.
Okay.
I think he would in the future, though. Like if you get a 1, you could take him at 2 million, but like Mads Mikkelsen will remember that that you tried to inexpertly beg him down.
Yeah, hopefully we don't get a critical fail because we're just talking here.
We're just talking. We're just making movies. All right, here comes the roll. That is a 6 on the dot.
All right. Welcome to the party, Mads.
So we got Mads Mikkelsen at 1.5 million. He is in. We're going to call Anya Taylor-Joy. And hey, next day in the office, Neil furiously sketching your ideas down. Phone rings. It's Dave, your line producer. We have heard back from Anya Taylor-Joy's camp. They are into it.
Great.
She is wondering, though, if she can have this finished by the December of 2018, because she does have a lot of 2019 already booked for this like Netflix series about chess.
Sure.
It doesn't seem like that big of a deal. You might be able to kind of like push him around. Like we here at Legendary, or I'm sorry, the other Dave Gonzalez at Legendary, fantastic
Legendary
executive.
Dave, yeah.
Yeah, Legendary Dave is almost wants to go toe-to-toe with Ted Sarandos at this point, so that might not be horrible.
Okay.
But because of that, you are actually gonna get her for a cool $1 million if you can do this. If you could schedule her out the way that you want.
Well, listen, we absolutely want her to be our star, and we want her to be our top of the line star on the poster. We will do whatever it takes to make it happen. And the good news here is that my timeline lines up with that. I want to have it done by December of 2018 as well. So as long as things go to plan, and I believe that it will because we have an excellent studio behind us, we'll be able to get her part of this done by the end of 2018. Now, obviously, there's a lot of post-production work, but when it comes to getting the shoot done and getting her ADR and everything in, we'll get this closed out so that the only thing we'll need her for in 2019 is the press tour.
Excellent. Very well pitched. She seems to also want to be in this movie. However, we don't know how well your leadership's going to do. You could say a lot of things.
That's true.
So I'm going to give you a leadership check of 4. Your leadership skill is a D6 die, and you get a +1 because you made a great TV episode. So you have jumped in and controlled a production before.
And I still have a failure.
On a success, you're in. Anya Taylor-Joy, $1 million. On a fail, Anya Taylor-Joy is going to want either more money up front or some back end points.
Okay.
Because she doesn't trust that you're going to do December.
All right. That's a risk I'm willing to take.
So we got to beat 4 on a 6. Here we go. That is a natural 1.
Does the failure token even help me here?
That failure token cannot help you here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But you do get another one.
Okay.
So that's 2 failure tokens. That is an extreme failure.
The dice, they get me.
Anya Taylor-Joy is like, I've worked with some, I just got off Split. I've just done some M. Night Shyamalan stuff.
Yeah.
I'm open to like this kind of secretive, this kind of, but it's very disruptive to my lifestyle.
Sure.
I'm going to be learning something completely different. You did say you could get me done by December 2018, but you also said that's when you're hoping to be done. Like I should be shot out so much sooner than when you're done,
sure.
honestly. Okay. So I would like 2 million and 5 back end points to do this for you.
All right. Well, listen, we saved some money on Mads, right? And we are going to fill in. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully we don't roll a bunch of 1s next week. We are going to fill in with some not as big names in the cast for the rest of the cast, but some excellent actors. I think she's worth it. Because again, she's the star of this movie.
Star of this movie.
And also I'm very confident
points,
that we'll have her done by the end of 2018. Long before the end of 2018.
Dave, line producer, says, I think, this is recoverable. I think there is a great way that we never are profitable on studio books in this movie, and we could maybe out Anya Taylor-Joy. But like, even if you're not thinking about that,
sure.
I will say, best case scenario, you haven't been Me Too'd yet, but hiring your star for less than your backup dad character would have probably been bad optics if that got out.
Yeah.
So I think there's a positive in actually paying her more than Mads
Mikkelsen.
Mikkelsen.
And here's the other thing. If we bring this movie in at its current budget, getting to a profitability point is going to be a much lower bar than,
correct,
for example, the other Godzilla movie that y'all are planning for 2019. So I think that if it's a surprise hit and we make multiple hundreds of millions of dollars, Anya Taylor-Joy is going to be a very rich woman at the end of 2019.
Very understandable. Do you want us to make some announcements? Or do you want to hold for the public until we're done with some more pre-production?
Let's hold for now. I want to keep some secrets and maybe let's get some costume tests going first.
Get some costume
I'd love
tests
to release a still
going
with these two together in costume before we make an announcement.
So good news, you got through the casting, you got your cast. None of them made any story determinations on you. What you pitched to them is what they liked.
Great.
So it's time to head over to our screenplay session. We're going to make up a fake screenwriter because I don't want to pile on some people who are trying to make movies in 2017. I did some precursory research. I'm like, this seems mean and bad.
Sure.
This is a role-based system. So Neil, welcome to Dave Gonzalez Screenwriter. I'm going to do my best. I am somebody that the studio sent over. I am a longtime Toho Godzilla fan.
Sure.
I am a Gareth Edwards fan.
Great.
2014 was fine. I wish there was more Godzilla in it. That's my personal opinion. But I graduated Tisch School of the Arts with a degree in screenwriting. Here I am.
Great.
Tell me I guess, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. What are 3 key things that you would like to have in this screenplay?
Sure. Well, I think the good news, if you want more Godzilla, is my goal here is to make a movie that's a little tighter than 2014 Godzilla, but does have ultimately more Godzilla in it. But I think there is a buildup. We're going to need to get there. So there's sort of 3 sort of main action set pieces that I want to execute. One is a sea battle between Viking ships that is overtaken by a storm. That's our Act 1 battle that it begins as just sort of a straightforward long ship battle between 2 big long ships full of Vikings, and can be kind of fun and bloody, and I think we could make it really interesting and cinematic, and then that very quickly goes wrong and they get waylaid on this island, and then that is where we eventually get into meeting the tribe that lives on the island and meeting the dragon that caused the storm, and the dragon attacking the island. That will be our big set piece in Act 2, where the Vikings have to help the tribe defend their stronghold from this dragon. And then after that, people sort of barely survive that. Our main characters for sure, but one of them not so much. We will get into Act 3, which is the awakening of Godzilla, I would say the road to Act 3. And along the road to Act 3 is like this climb up the mountain. And eventually it is going to lead to them getting to the top of the mountain and performing a ritual of some kind that will awaken Godzilla and bring him out of this volcano, or volcano / time portal, whatever we end up deciding. The studio has some notes on this where they don't exactly understand how Godzilla exists alongside Vikings, but we're willing to work with whatever helps Toho get on board. But along the way, I would like to have sort of a mini action set piece that involves them fighting off some smaller monsters that are, because the path up the mountain is perilous. And I was thinking something that we could do practically, maybe some giant ice spiders.
Ice spiders.
Yep. Maybe they have to fight off some ice spiders on a steep cliff of some kind. And they get past those trials. They get up to the top of the mountain. They awaken Godzilla. And then we have our big third act, Godzilla versus... we could even bring the ice spiders back. Maybe the ice spiders all come running down the mountain, and that's what the Vikings are doing while Godzilla and the dragon are beating on each other in the background in the final act.
I like this. Okay. Do you have any thoughts on a mythology of this dragon? Am I looking in like Norse mythology? Am I going to have to read Eaters of the Dead again?
I mean, we can. I'm open to sort of any mythology. There are several dragon-like monsters in sort of the Godzilla lore. There's an ion dragon that I think is interesting, that has not yet been used in the Monsterverse. There is in Toho lore the Princess of the Moon, which is sort of a Loch Ness Monster style dragon, but I had more of a traditional, more traditional-ish medieval style dragon in mind. But so like the Ion Dragon would probably be more along the lines of what I was thinking, which is sort of a big wyvern style dragon that spits lightning, and the lightning would go with creating a big storm.
Oh yeah. And how much, if any, do you want this to have like an East versus West vibe, given that we're strongly in Western Viking tradition and now bringing in a Toho monster, maybe?
I mean, it's an interesting question. I do think that there is room to play around with who this tribe is that lives on this island, because we don't necessarily have to specify where this island is. Obviously, it's not super far away from where the Vikings would be in the North Atlantic. But we could also preface this situation with a title card in the opening that says that, these two Viking clans met up at a very remote location and neither of them really knew where they were. And then they were swept even further north, and they ended up on an island where there was a very different kind of people, right? And this, I think, lends to potential to really diversify our cast and offset sort of, we're going to have our Vikings, who are a very specific Scandinavian style people. This being in the Monsterverse and being a work of science fiction, and given that they're on an island that may have a time hole, it could be anybody. I would leave that open to you creating some ideas that maybe these folks, their ancestors at least, came through the same portal that Godzilla came through, and are the kind of people that you wouldn't necessarily expect to find up in the Scandinavian region.
All right. I love this. We're going to do 2 rolls for creativity, Neil.
Awesome. Oh, this is my
this
D20.
Is your D20 skill.
All right. I mean, as long as it's not.
You have to beat, if you get a 14, you get everything you want. It executes how you want. We deal with problems as we come up with it, but your screenplay comes out basically as you put it in.
Okay.
Everything you get above a 14 becomes a modifier on your end roll for critic score.
Wow.
So max of 100.
Come on,
so if you
20.
If you roll a 20 and then blow up and roll another 20, all of a sudden your critic score is pretty good for the rest
Give
of
me
the
that
thing.
certified fresh logo.
If you fail, of course, you will get a loss token, but unfortunately, you won't know how bad you fail until next week when you get the screenplay back.
Sure. Okay. That could be fun.
All right. So we're going to do creativity, 1 for the critic score and 1 for the Godzilla legacy. So the second roll will be, can this screenplay writer massage like the Princess in the Moon in a way, or the time portal in the way where Toho's like, you know what? We're going to let you go with this. Cool. We actually like where this is going. So first we're doing creativity. Does your screenplay just go? Need to be a 14. Here we go. That is a 16.
Yes.
So we get +2 to your critic score.
Screenwriter Dave was the right choice.
Screenwriter Dave was the right choice. All right. Legacy die roll. This is for, can you get a Toho bump to come through your screenplay as Screenwriter Dave is working on it. Once again, got to beat that 14. That is a 19. Ooh. So that is a +5 to your legacy dice. Looks like the Vikings might have meant the Princess of the Moon. We're going to have to find out next week as everything comes together. Neil, you're doing great. There's only one thing that you have to do now, which is pick a VFX house.
Great.
Here's how I'm going to do. Here's how I'm going to do this. VFX Studio A, once again, did some research. Was like, I don't need to trash people. So we're going to say VFX Studio A has looked at your outline, has looked at your 3 sequences, has heard about the spiders, let's say.
Great.
They are going to bid you out at $15 million for your whole shebang.
Okay.
VFX Studio B is going to underbid VFX Studio A at $13 million.
Okay.
And VFX Studio C is going to underbid all of those at $10 million. But VFX Studio C, this will be their first project.
Okay. I was going to say, what do we know about these studios? Do any of them have any hardware?
A is your top of the line. A is your top of the line. You know how it goes. But A is also, because they're top of the line, they're industry standard. So there is a possibility that if your shots start costing more, they will ask for more money.
Okay.
Because this is 2017, the way VFX studios work, VFX Studio C, if they bid in at $10 million, they're going to suck up all those $10 million, but there's a very high chance you will be able to ride them for extra unpaid OT.
Sure.
Should you need to.
Sure.
Because VFX Studio C is going to put up with that shit.
Yeah,
and
the
VFX
younger
Studio
studio
A
will be
is
able
not.
to push them around a little more, which
Exactly.
I would never do unless I had to.
Well, and you could go B in the middle, and B in the middle is going to be like, you're just going to be doing more roles. If you pick A, there's going to be some stuff is going to be better for you because you paid your way out of it. If you pick C and you run into VFX problems, you're going to either have to pay or lose some time out of it. If you roll B, it's going to be a lot more about your roles going in the... If you pick B, it's going to be a lot more about your roles in the future because you're going to be rolling a lot.
Right. Okay. And A is 15 million?
A is 15
and
million.
I've already spent...
B is 13 million.
3.5 million.
Correct.
On my 2 main cast members, which is not bad. All things considered.
No, and I do think once again this is a game. I'm low bidding you on visual effects for a Godzilla movie. Like once again, this is a game about how movies work.
Sure.
Please don't email Framestore and says Dave says Godzilla movie effects cost $15 million.
Well, listen, visual effects are very important. And I think that this is obviously there's a bunch of other stuff we have to spend money on. Costumes, locations, cinematography, the rest of the cast. But I am tempted to go with the best visual effects company because I think that is the standard the studio is going to want to set for these movies. And especially given the confidence I have in the script, the roles that I just had, I really want to make sure that we bring that vision to life in the best way possible. So I think I'm going to spend the money.
All right.
And just, if things go wrong down the road, the hope is that this effects studio, this studio is, or this VFX house is doing such good work that if we go back to the studio for more money, we'll be able to get it if we need it.
That is really smart. I am going to give one final roll just for determination. It really doesn't matter. You can't fail this one. But determination is your D10 dice, and it's going to determine how I play the VFX studio next week, given your pitch, and you're just paying them as much as you want. And so out of 10, we got a 2. Is that good for you? Is that bad for you? We're going to have to find out next week. We're going to cast the rest of the people. We are going to do the rest of your pre-productions. We're going to figure out how
VFX
much...
supervisor is going to show up drunk to the first meeting or something.
Hey! 2 is not a critical fail.
Yeah. At least it's not a 1.
We're gonna wrap up casting. We're gonna deal with some details of the screenplay. You're gonna have some previs, and you're gonna see how that's working out. You're gonna have some designs for your new monsters, and we're gonna make some final decisions before we go into production next week.
Nice.
This was 3 what I call encounters. I think about 3 encounters a week is a good length for one of these episodes.
And I have 2 failure tokens in my burning hole in my pocket, which I'm
you do
honestly very, very happy that I still have. I thought I was going to have to use at least 1.
And I think you did pretty good considering on the money side, there was no possible way to earn dice for your financial rolls this week. There was only how much budget are you going to have left?
Sure.
And a few points with Anya Taylor-Joy, which, as you pointed out, might not come off the back end at all.
Let's see. So I've spent 18.5 million.
Mhm.
So that's what I have 31.5 left.
I will definitely have math that you could read by the time we start next week's episode. I really just had to roll some dice
I
this
got
week.
about 30 million left, and I feel pretty confident that we'll be able to put that to good use.
Sounds good to me. Come back next week to see if Neil can actually make Godzilla Awakening. Until then, go out there, be excellent to each other, and if you're gonna teleport to Florida, go to, I don't know, theme parks.